apologize. It's a little warm here. We have a bit of a heat wave here in California. It's currently 102 degrees, and hopefully the fan that's behind me isn't too loud. But yeah. So this show, one thing about the show, it had been named Project Firefly Office Hours for ever since we started the show. First using the show to exploring Project Firefly, because that's really a lot of what the show is. We are exploring new topics, and every couple of weeks we'll bring you something new. We don't yet have it decided for the next session, which is going to be on July 1st. But we will finalize that early next week, and we'll get out the invitations for you. But today we have an awesome session. I am super excited that we have a customer that joined our hackathon prior to Summit, and even though he was in a completely different time zone, which is the one that we're in, that we're broadcasting normally. We do this show in the mornings in the West Coast, but today it is 4 o'clock in California right now, and that is because it is 9 a.m. in Australia, which is where our guest Anil is from. So let me bring in Anil. And I probably mispronounced that, right?
No, it's all good. Look, it's exactly the opposite weather. I think it's
right.
Not more than 10 degrees centigrade.
Right.
It's gloomy and it's raining. So yeah, typical Melbourne weather, but it's great to be here. Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic. I really wish I was there. Not just because it's winter, but I absolutely love Melbourne.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So this, so you're going to talk about a dashboard that you created during our hackathon, which is kind of insane because the hackathon was done during our, daytime, and so it wasn't even. You didn't have really anybody to support you during when you were doing it, right? You didn't stay up all night, right? I didn't confirm that prior to us having this discussion.
No, not all night, but half the night. I mean, I was pretty excited because I think it kind of coincided to what I was trying to do, and I had a lot of questions in my mind. I thought this is a great opportunity for me to try out my hypothesis or what I can do.
Yeah.
And help validate that, build something. And I was sure of one thing. I was sure that all of you guys in the product team would be there. So I would have my questions answered, even if I don't get anything done. But it turned out really good. Yeah. So it was good to get that support, and whatever idea I had, I was able to build something, and to see that working was even more. It just validated that yes, Project Firefly could probably help us, with some of our use cases, or most of our use cases.
Yeah, right on. That is super cool. So when you say that it was good that we were able to help you during that process, what are some of the channels that you reached out to us on? I think we had a Slack channel, but the Slack channel I think was only open during when we had the hackathon on. But I don't know if you leverage that or like the forums.
Oh, absolutely, I have. So I think to give you more context, this didn't just start during the hackathon, right? I mean, it had been going on at Firefly, and I remember reaching out to you, asking for access to Project Firefly, and wondering, should I invest time? Should I investigate what this can do, right?
Yeah.
And this was around, I think, August or October last year, and I was trying to build a dashboard with Adobe Analytics, and as one of the data source, and I had a couple more data sources. Now, I created the dashboard, and I had a working demo ready, and that's when I'm like, okay. We need to host this dashboard somewhere. We need to give access to people, and that's when my manager was kind enough. All right, let's understand what are the steps involved and the teams involved in all of that, right? And obviously, it's that's when I realized that it's not just building apps, right? There's the other half of it, right?
Yeah.
How do you, how do you make it available? How do you host it? Where do you put it? Should it be access control? What kind of access control should everybody have? Who can see it? Who can't see it? And how often does it change? And how do you change? And that's when I decided, all right, so this is not just about just building. It's also about how do you distribute? How do you give access to it? And that got me thinking. And that's when Project Firefly came by, and I heard that you could use the Experience shell. I'm like, what does that mean?
Okay,
Right. And that's when I started exploring.
Okay, so that's awesome. So you had started on building a dashboard not using Project Firefly, right? And then you came across, which is one of the reasons that we think Project Firefly, and you've just validated, is super valuable for our customers, which is customers don't have to worry about where to host it. They don't have to worry about authentication or access control lists or any of that kind of stuff. You basically get that out of the box as a experienced cloud user. So that is super cool. So you had this idea in your mind for this dashboard, and then you came across Firefly and were like, okay, I think this might fit.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's weird because I started with a use case, and then I tried to fit that within Project Firefly, which was all right?
Yeah.
Because I was very, very specific. This is what I need, and can Project Firefly, deliver that? And when I started exploring that, that's when I realized the potential, right?
Yeah.
Right. But mine was a dashboard, so it will be a full application.
Yeah.
And the best part was I was working on a dashboard built on React, right? And there you go. So I knew that there was when I started exploring. So there's React Spectrum, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you have to use React Spectrum, but then it just makes your life easy, isn't it? So I was like, excellent. That's great. And then I started exploring how can I build it? How easy is it to build? That's when I started reading the documentation. Obviously, that was my first go-to place. And the next step was obviously for me to see if there are examples, right?
Yeah.
And this is where the code labs. I don't know if you track how many people use it, but I can guarantee you the highest visit from Australia would be me, right? I mean, the amount of time I spent in code labs to understand, or to replicate them, was a huge first step for me. Yeah.
I think it's really good when you can learn from doing, right? And I think our time investing into code labs, we're hoping reaps rewards for our customers. So let me, one of the things I didn't get into was a little bit about your background. So you're not a developer. Would you classify yourself as a developer or not? Is this kind of your first entry into development?
No, I'm definitely not a developer by, I don't have any academic certification. You'll be surprised, I'm a graduate in microbiology.
That is excellent.
Yeah, I know who've learned on the job, right? I mean, to give you a brief history of my, the way I kind of started learning it, I started as a data analyst. I would log into Omniture, which is Adobe Analytics today, and download reports, use Excel, use the UI, excellent, right? But then I started working with stakeholders, understanding what they need, and that's when implementation came into picture. That's when JavaScript came into picture. All right, let's learn JavaScript required for Adobe Analytics, right? And I started learning JavaScript, and then understanding the tag management system, again based on JavaScript, right? And then obviously the as you evolve, right, the data needs grow, not just for me, but for the teams as well. They want more, right? So excellent, the UI does this, but can I get the raw data? That's when I started working on the APIs, right? All right, let's get the API from here. Let's connect the offline data to online data, right? That worked fine. I started working on APIs, and then they're like, can we build an app which does this? Just something in a local computer, right? Okay, let's build an app using Python or JavaScript. I've always been on the JavaScript side, but an app which does help somebody do classification or automate a small job, right? So it's not just me, but I think a lot of data analysts have learned this over time to adapt to growing needs of the business and the users, and obviously that's helped me build these apps, understand the technology, and I learned how to use GitHub and all of the other things. And that's when when this came along, right? I kind of knew the basics of how serverless platform work, and how what is I can bootstrap a React application because it's so easy to do it now. It was not so easy 5-7 years ago.
Sure.
Right. But today it's the command line and the kind of documentation and the kind of front end apps you have. It just makes your life easy. So the learning curve today is not the same as it was earlier. But then the good bits, like I said, is tools like React or serverless platform today help you get started really fast, right? Sorry, I think that took a while, but I just want
the flexibility, right? Because our tools are open and extensible, so that is awesome to hear. So let's jump into. I'll have you go ahead and share your screen, and you can show us the dashboard that you built and a little bit of the code, and go through it a little bit, and then we'll jump into the presentation and talk a little bit more about kind of the journey, and go through that. Sound good? I can, and you are live with your screen. So all set.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. So I'll just give a quick, brief overview of the use case I was trying to accomplish here. Right now, to give you more context, this was very specific to our organization, where we a bit of introduction about Accent Group, where I work. So it's an Australian-based retailer, and one of the biggest retailers and distributors for performance and lifestyle footwear, and we have around 500 stores and more than 15 brands, and that means we have around 20 plus websites, web properties, and that's a lot of data, right? And these brands have been growing over time, and we are obviously on Adobe stack, marketing tech stack, but not all brands are on Adobe marketing tech stack, and this means that there's a transition of users who use maybe Google Analytics today, but will be transitioning to the Adobe marketing tech stack. And one of them obviously is Adobe Analytics. Now, what this means is data can be in two different places for a certain amount of time during that transition. And that coexistence is important, right? But what this also means for a business user is if they have to do a certain kind of comparison year on year, well, does it mean they have to look at two different tools to do that? Maybe yes. Look for past year in Google Analytics and current year in Adobe Analytics. And this is the use case I was trying to solve. Can I build a custom dashboard which fetches the data for this financial year from Adobe Analytics and for the past financial year from Google Analytics, and then says, hey, you know what? We've increased the revenue by whatever percentage. That's the comparison bit. I'm going to quickly show that now. I hope this works. So what's happening here is we're comparing FY20 from GA to FY21 from Adobe Analytics. This is dummy data, but I'm sure you'll get the concept here. It's pulling information from Adobe Analytics using the API and Google Analytics using the Google Analytics API, and then it's going to compare those numbers and should show us the dashboard. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, one question I had, looking at this is so who are the users? Like when you envisioned having this app, are they other data analysts? Is that's who the users of this would be, or is it more marketing leaders?
Well, it would be more of the marketing and the e-commerce teams, because they are the day in and day out. They are the ones who are pulling up these reports and looking at them. But that does not mean data analysts also would love to analyze this information. But primarily, this is for the marketing teams. Yes.
Okay, and I see also. So you've got a dashboard, and there's also a real time component as well, and that's
Yes, I
actually
mean,
one of the areas that when we talk about analytics users of Firefly, that likely real time dashboards are a pretty nice fit. So it looks like you
absolutely,
thought the same
and
thing.
yes, absolutely. And I don't have that ready yet, but that's the whole point of it, right? I mean, you can build a real-time dashboard and have your current week or today's data in there. Uh, that's the whole concept of this dashboard. And if you see here, I'm just using Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics, but the second phase of this dashboard is to get offline data as well, data from store and the point of sales to show that information here. Imagine having one dashboard which pulls information from 4 different data sources, and that's exactly what instead of having the business user go into 4 different places.
Yeah, that would be super useful.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to quickly run through the code. I'm going to quickly switch screens. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I
So
see
what's happening
DS.
here? Great, thanks, Dave. Right, so a couple of actions here. Actions is the serverless actions which are set within Project Firefly, and like I said earlier, they call the respective APIs, which um, Adobe Analytics in this case and Google Analytics in this case. The payload or the information which is needed to get the uh, data from this API is obviously passed from the front end, which is here in the web source folder. This is where the payload that includes the time frame, the metrics, and the dimensions needed is passed from here, and then that information again displayed as a dashboard in this component, in the dashboard component. So pretty straightforward. But yeah, I think it does the job.
Hey, so when you built the dashboard, and I just thinking back on, you mentioned that React Spectrum makes it certainly easier to build out the UI side of things. I was just curious, did you use React components, like any of the Firefly React Spectrum components, or did you kind of roll your own, or how did you go about?
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to talk about it later. That's the
Which
flexibility of.
you can wait till later if you want to, but it's up to you.
No. It's absolutely fine. I can happy to come back to that again. But the whole point was, yes. So this is a combination of React Spectrum and another React library called Ant-D, which I've been used to.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what I built my earlier dashboard on, and it was just transposing what I built there in here because it's React. So for me, it was easy because it kind of gelled in the outside structure. The frame is still React Spectrum,
Yep.
but the inner components uses a different library.
Yeah, and what was it like? Because I know there's three, when you go to the React homepage. There's three libraries. There's Spectrum, React Spectrum, and then there's two others. I think one of them was the one that you mentioned, right?
No. This is not an Adobe
Okay.
one. This is called Ant-D, and it's pretty popular actually. But yeah, this is not Adobe. It's this library, component library for React, open source, so you can just
Right on.
pick it up and start using. Yeah.
Well, that is super
So
cool. So you basically kind of leveraged what you needed from both of these, and yeah, made it function.
exactly. So the shell, everything else is React Spectrum, but the inner components, specifically the dashboard bits, which shows the numbers, that is Ant-D, and because I'm comfortable using it, I could just pick it up from my earlier implementation and put it in here. Yeah.
Okay, this is like an advertisement for Firefly. I mean, because basically, like all of these areas that we talk about with Firefly, that it's super beneficial is you can bring your own. We give you a bunch of stuff out of the box, but you can certainly bring your own. I mean, that's a living example of it right there. So Oh,
Absolutely. I think
that's
React
fantastic.
Spectrum is great, right? And they're still building a lot of components, which I think adhere to the Adobe standards. But that doesn't mean you have to wait for it. I love these components because they are um, so friendly to display data, which is not available today in Spectrum. I'm hoping that'll be in the future. But feel free to use any open source React components.
Right on. All right.
Excuse me.
So, was there anything else that you wanted to share on the code side, or should we jump into
Um,
the presentation? Right here. Okay. Let's go to that one. That's a better view. Okay. And you just let me know when to jump to the next slide, and I'll let you
Thank you, Ron.
narrate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I thought I'll just put some notes or some points, on how I got started, and maybe it'll help somebody who's looking to get started in with Project Firefly. And when I started doing that, I'm like, all right, let me just trace back my steps. I started with a use case, and then I started looking around Project Firefly. What in Project Firefly can help me? And I found it. I'm like, all right, let's start playing around, which is great, right? But then when I started writing down the steps, then I realized there's an amazing article which is probably written way back when Project Firefly kind of released, and I love the phases the way it's described. Right, it says discover, create, build, distribute, and use. Right. I kind of started from use case and then went to build and then went back to discover. Right. In hindsight, it's all right, but I think if somebody's starting now, totally makes sense to get this process, or rather start from these phases and understand how Project Firefly can help. Yeah. So let's go through these phases, understand how what I've done is I've added extra actions and steps here based on my experience, but feel free to play around and make your own. Yeah. Let's go to the next one, Ron. Right. So the first step is, it says discover, right? So well, honestly, this is where you spend quite a bit of time, right? Discover and build is where you'll probably end up spending most of the time. And this is a very critical step, right? And this is where you sit down and make a list of all the Experience Cloud products you have. Doesn't mean you can't work with any other products, right? Also, other digital marketing suite of products you have, and understand what technologies or what features they have. A good example is maybe you're using a marketing automation tool which is not Adobe, right? Like Mailchimp or something. Excellent. And you write down, yes, it has a event listener, and it has it can listen to event from if somebody publishes it. Excellent. So you make a note of all the products available within the Adobe marketing tech stack and within your with other digital marketing tech stack of product. And um, and obviously the next step is to go through all of these documentation and understand videos to understand what Project Firefly is all about, and then list use cases, right? And the people involved here are usually architects or engineers and data analysts. I would highly recommend data analysts to be included. People who are involved in data transformation, data augmentation, or troubleshooting data. Absolutely need to be involved in this. Spend some time, understand how or discover what Project Firefly can do. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Right. So the first step, I call it 1A, is to understand the technology stack. Right. I mean, this is where you spend understand. Okay, what is Firefly and what is it built on? What language does it support today? And does it have a front end, back end? Yes. What is the framework in the front end? What are the features? This has data storage, file storage, custom events. What does custom events mean? Does it mean I can consume events, custom events? Can I publish events? And great. Now, does it have access to APIs? All the Adobe APIs? What APIs? And is it limited to first? Just Adobe APIs or third-party APIs? Obviously, you can see you can clearly access all of them, and not to forget the important one, is the developer experience. How do they get started, right? What kind of tools, CLIs are available for developers to get started, the access controls for them, and if you build, what are the next step? How to deploy? How easy is it to deploy? Either using your own, either using GitHub Actions or other deployment tools. And obviously there is post-deployment. How do you monitor those, and what are the operational, security and operational stuff involved. So yes, understand the technology stack. Spend some time knowing the entire project Firefly. Okay. So obviously the next step is maybe dwell a little deeper, understand what are the core components, cloud services, what kind of cloud services is available. There's a runtime, which is a serverless framework. What can you do there? If any of your engineers have worked with other serverless framework like AWS or Microsoft, this wouldn't be a big learning curve. And understand the front end. Is it only React, or can you use just HTML and JavaScript? Understand custom events. Can you publish? Can you, how do you publish events? How do you consume events? And what are the CLIs and SDKs available? I'm sure most of the Adobe products have APIs, so you should find those under CLIs and SDKs.
So one of the things I just want to jump in here, in thinking about this, like cloud services. So we've got storage services, and then you mentioned events. So when you built the dashboard, other than the UI framework and certainly runtime for the actions, were there any other components that you leveraged?
When I built the dashboard, no, I think these are the only two when I started. But then obviously I was exploring, can I save the data somewhere for some of the use cases, right? Especially for the external, the second phase of it, where I'm trying to get data source, where I'm trying to get data from external sources, not within Adobe APIs. Can I save it and then use this later? But yes, for those, it was just the UI and the runtime.
Yeah, I think when we talked last week, one of the things you mentioned is the dashboard was kind of the first use case. You've got a couple of others that you're also thinking about as well. So when you went into the kind of diving into these core components, did learning about those trigger any kind of, or inspire any ideas there, or how did those come about, just by necessity?
Absolutely. I mean, that's next slide actually.
Oh,
so
hey, look at that. There
we are
go.
coming to that. Yeah, I mean, that was a good segue to that, right? And that's why I said, in hindsight, I started off with a use case and then went and said, okay, Project Firefly can do this for me. But I think this is why when you get all the data analysts and engineers and even end users, right? You sit and discuss. All right, these are the Adobe Experience Cloud of products we use today, right? And then you start analyzing. All right, are there anything specific in these products which can leverage Firefly, right? Are there any systems? Are there any processes which we can automate using Project Firefly, right? So, and then you go one tool by tool, right? Adobe Analytics. Okay, what are the tasks in Adobe Analytics where I can leverage Project Firefly? I can build dashboards. I can maybe do some data augmentation. I can build one of the use cases which I'm thinking of, and happy to share, is there's an API to repair data. Okay, now for a data analyst who works on APIs, it's all right, but for an end user, right, oh well, you can't expect them to know using APIs. They had their day jobs, and you can't ask them to, just go use this and start using the API. So how about we build an app, right, which has a front end where what data you want to repair. How about we create an app which has a instruction of this is CSV file template, download it, upload the data, and press a button, and then it repairs the data and then sends you a Slack message that it's all done. Yeah. So what you've done now is you're trying to go through each and every product, understand use cases and how Project Firefly can help you, right? So you'll see I'm heavily focused on the Marketing Cloud, and because I don't really work so much on the Experience Manager and Commerce Cloud, but I can imagine the number of use cases they'll have to automate jobs or use Project Firefly. But yes, I think this is a very critical step where you not only involve team members who work on specific products and see what use cases can you solve, but also at a higher level, people who work on data integration, who integrate analytics with Target or analytics with Campaign, understand how Project Firefly can help there.
Right on. That's very cool.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorite, right? I've been using this for some time now, what I call a high leverage activity. And this is where, when you start listing those use cases, it becomes really, really important, right? So what is a high leverage activity? It's something which, an activity which produces a disproportionate impact for the amount of effort you put in, right? This is from a book called Effective Engineer, right? And what you're getting out of it is leverage, and leverage is force multiplier, according to me. And any activity which you do in some short amount of time, when I say short, not really short, but then and that impacts your project performance for a long time, right? I mean, when I say project, it impacts your team's performance for a long time, right? I'm going to quickly spend a couple of use cases or other examples here so that I can drive this point. A very trivial app I was thinking of, or any organization would need is, let's say there's a team of data analysts, or an organization has teams where people join, and you have you need to train them, or you need to onboard them, right? And what's the usual process? You have them go to Confluence, or show them some documentation and say, here's what you refer, and then you can read this here about analytics. This is where you read about Target. This is the team about Audience Manager, and this is the team for Experience Platform. And these are the information you need to know. This is how it's architected, and these are the data points, right? So it's all information is kept everywhere else. I mean, it's kept at respective places, or sometimes at one place, right? But how about you create an app within within the Experience Cloud, which is an onboarding app, right? A new user comes in and like, hey, you know what? Just go give access to the onboarding app, and they know exactly where to start, what to look for, where to look for, right? And that's a great idea, because you're actually getting so much time back, right? And it's you create that once, and only update if something changes. In fact, you can even connect it to other Firefly apps, to make it dynamic and never change. So that's something which is very trivial, but then makes your life easy. So stuff like those can be thought of and can be put on Firefly. I hope that makes sense. I know it's a very small use case.
Yeah, and I know that for us, for our marketing team, I mean, onboarding is it gets as the number of tools that we use to do our jobs as marketers, that onboarding process grows, and so that I think that's a great idea to do that.
Absolutely, yeah. And another use case I can think of is if you're not using let's say a marketing automation tool, which is Adobe, so you're using some third-party tool, and today if you had to spend the quite a bit of time to get the data from Adobe Analytics to your third-party tool, so that you can trigger, like a welcome email or a cart abandonment from a third-party marketing automation tool. Maybe it's a manual process where you send a feed every hour, and then it identifies that yes, somebody's signed up or somebody's abandoned the cart, and then does some action based on it, right? So this is another good example where you identify, sit with the stakeholders, understand what I call what is a standard operating procedure, list out the tasks, and pull out a task which can be turned into a system or a Project Firefly app, right? Have a cron job which does this for you within Project Firefly. Let it listen to the triggers in Adobe Analytics, and most of the marketing automation tools today can consume events. Publish an event so that it can listen to it immediately. You don't have to wait for an hourly feed, right? And then do something out of it. So it not only helps in creating apps, but also helps for the end users in the business, but also in customer use cases, right? So yes, I mean, I can keep going of all the use cases because I have a Notion page full of use cases for Firefly byproducts.
That is outstanding.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right,
we look forward to seeing those come to life and helping you to bring those to life. So that is
absolutely
awesome.
Yeah. That's the plan. Yeah. Great. Yeah. So that's about high leverage activities, right? I mean, identify activities which gives back time and energy, right? I mean, make a list of things, see what could become either a business user app or something which helps you, reduce that time spent in augmenting or doing a transformation or working with a data integration with other marketing tech stack of products. Yeah, and obviously the next step is to understand how you start creating these apps or automation projects. The first thing obviously is to start creating some example apps. Code Labs is the best place to start, and I think I can vouch for that because I've pretty much done most of them, creating a headless and a headful application. And I think I did spend quite a bit of time understanding the developer console, the aspect, what is a project and what are workspaces and how are they structured and what kind of what is configuration within the workspace, which is great because if you worked on other consoles, it's pretty much similar. The concept is similar. You just need to understand the terms on creating a project and what are workspaces within the project. I think the next step would be obviously pick a prototype of all the use cases you've listed and start building.
Sorry, jump
in. We can go to the next one.
Okay.
No, that's all right. Yeah. Well, I think after discover, build is the phase where you'll end up spending good amount of time, right? This is where you'll probably pull your hair out if something doesn't work. But the good thing is good amount of documentation and some good YouTube videos which have come along in the last 6 to 8 months. Help you understand different aspects of Project Firefly. I think there's also quite a good documentation on making your first app in the documentation. And yes, well, I'm a huge fan of the logging libraries, right? I mean, I started off without it, and then I spent a good amount of time trying to see, okay, what did I do wrong? Is it in the front end or is it in the actions? I'm like, okay, and that's when logging libraries help you. And once you get used to it, just going back. And of course, there is the Experientially community, right? I mean, the product team is there and they help you answer those questions. There's a good amount of discussion happening there. So definitely a place to be, right? And like I mentioned earlier, explore and work with comfortable libraries. It's not that you have to use fetch to pull the APIs. I'm comfortable with Axios, so that's what I use for most of the my code. So and like I said, you don't have to completely depend on React Spectrum. Not that it's bad, but it's amazing. But if there's something for specific use cases, components, they use the the React community is huge, and you'll probably get a component for every idea you're looking for. So yeah, I mean, that's something which is very flexible within Project Firefly.
Right on.
Yeah. Great. And of course, once you have something up and running, the next step is to understand how would you distribute it, understand how the distribution works, the access bit of it, who gets, how do you assign access to the app you created. And I love GitHub Actions because it's the most easiest thing to do. Sorry. And I think when you actually bootstrap an application using Firefly, it comes with an option that if you want GitHub Actions, which is amazing, right? You can just say yes, and then it'll populate that default values, which you can change if required. And of course, if you're not an admin, work with your system admin to submit your first app, and then the approval process. So which is very straightforward actually, and should be able to help you publish your app into the exchange. Yeah. And the final step obviously is to create a transition plan. And now obviously it's the good part is all of this is within the Experience Cloud shell. So it's not that they have to go anywhere else. Have a training session, help them understand how we're building these apps and what does extensibility mean. Very few people know that you can actually build apps within Experience Cloud, and you can have all that information in one place, and get some initial users, test and get feedback. And this is what I thought would be the logical next step. But yes, scale it and update it with new features and updates. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, Ron.
I think this one though, I mean the use idea. We've talked to customers. A lot of times when we talk to customers, it's really on that front end of how do they get started, what do they build, how do they get support for building whatever it is, and but on this side of where it comes to, you've done the creation piece of it. Now you've got, like you're saying here, a transition plan, a welcome pack, explain to your customers what it is, and then get some initial users, testing, get feedback. That I find incredibly exciting because, that's really where you've operationalized the application that you brought to life. In doing that, are there things that surprised you about that process? Or, you mentioned that you talk to your customers about Adobe Extensibility and they'd be like, what are you talking about? It does what? I can do what?
Yeah.
So are there other things that were surprising about the process, or any other advice that you can give for folks that are embarking?
Oh no, I think like I said, it's the important bit is the discovery part, and once you understand what it can do for you, and it's all about listing those use cases, trying it out, and I think, like you said, the action is in the doing, and when you actually taste it, you're never going to go back. Yeah.
All right. Very cool.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then we've got this this kind of ending slide with your information, right?
Absolutely. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to, help you with whatever I've learned. Yeah.
All right. That is super cool. So I am going to.
I love I love how you played off your name on that. That's awesome.
I know, right?
Yeah. That was from.
We're back. Sorry,
yep.
we keep dropping. Well, we don't keep it. That was the second time it dropped, but I'm gonna go turn the fan back on. So you guys just talk amongst yourselves.
You gotta turn the fan up a little bit higher this time. So, on your journey, did you run into anything that you would, what do you think we could do better?
Well, I think Well, I think yes.
Submitted by customers already.
Oh, really? That's great, because again, maybe I'm biased because I come from the marketing, the Adobe Marketing Cloud, right? I won't speak much on Experience Manager and Commerce Cloud, but I think some examples specifically for the Analytics Cloud and for Adobe Target campaign, would excite these the customers who use it, right? I mean, obviously there's so much potential here, and hopefully I get some time to create use code labs and create some examples. But yes, definitely some examples focus on this specific cloud would be great. And I completely forgot about the Experience Platform, right? I mean, that's another beast, right? It's imagine what you could do in Experience Platform. And we're just getting started with Experience Platform. And I can already think of so many use cases with Experience Platform. I think focusing on some example around Experience Platform and other marketing related Adobe products would be a great value add for the community.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. I want to see this list, this use case list. I think we could do a whole session talking about the use case list, it sounds like.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I have some, I don't know how much of it is possible, but I'm very confident all of it is possible. But every time I'm in a meeting and somebody says, "Oh, if we do this over and over again," I'm like, "Okay, that's Project Firefly." Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm like, "Is there an API? Can they consume events?" I'm like, if the answer is yes, then I'm like, "All right." So, although I don't speak of it immediately because then I'm committing to a lot of things. So I'm like, okay, I quickly have my Notion open and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a note of this use case. All right, let's see if that's workable. But yeah.
I think if you've got, you mentioned some use cases that would be great as a code lab. If you've got any use cases that you think we should build, let us know. I mean, Dave and I, that's our team that is responsible for building those and putting those out there. So by all means, we can help bring those to life, or bring them to life for you, especially if they're things that you.
Or is it?
I'm pretty sure, Dave, that it's open source, but
there's a link on the page, and I can send you one as well. But there's a link on the site that tells you how to get started writing your own code labs, and you can submit them, and then we review them and publish them. Yeah.
Sounds good. I'll maybe give it a shot as well.
Excellent. Well, hey, we'd love if you did. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. I think this is probably the missing, product. I wouldn't call it a product, right? For me, the way I look at this is a product which helps you productize the service. I don't know if you got what I mean, but so there's so many services, some information for one tool to another tool, right? And right. When you and that's used as a service within an organization, what you could productize it, what you could turn that into a product, right? And this is where it comes in, and it's very powerful if you ask me, right? And where you can remove those manual jobs, right? Yeah. But then how about you offer product? Maybe you have some of the services, but they say, hey, you know what? We have new users coming in. Oh, no worries. We have an app for onboarding, right? So you don't have to spend manual hours training somebody, right? Yeah. So for me, Project Firefly is a way to productize a lot of services around Adobe products. Yeah,
nice. I was just going to chime in and say that, definitely, analytics as a service is huge at Adobe internally. We have a whole team that builds custom solutions based on the data needs of our organization. Data-driven operating is huge for us. So operating model, and that's having a team that is agile and can build those views and those dashboards and the tooling really to allow the internal sales and marketing teams to really operate themselves and learn from the data. So yeah, very cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
I always think about it as like a glue, like all the products that we have are really great and they're industry leading in what they do, but we have to service the whole world. So in some cases they can't quite get that one little thing right for that particular industry, right? They can't address all of them. It can't possibly be done.
Yeah.
So, we have Firefly being the bridge or the glue to that value, right? To get it out of our products, which I think is a really cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's that missing serverless framework. I always thought that should be part of the marketing tech stack. I mean, and Adobe having that, and I think, I'm not sure if any other vendor has that. It is a huge advantage. I mean, you have your own serverless platform. I know a few companies or agencies who actually use other serverless framework to automate quite a bit of the job. And imagine if Adobe has its own, which they have it now, is amazing, right? And it's just a matter of adoption and understanding how it can help the use cases.
Very cool. Hey, there's a question that came in on comments. So what's the most challenging part when you use Project Firefly?
Well, I think it depends, but for me, I think it was
and we only have 4 minutes left, so I don't know if you've got like a lot.
No. I think it's just the getting started bit, right? I mean, once you understand what it does, the first build might be a little challenging, and specifically getting all the your environments ready, right? I think there's a good article on it on how to get the local environment ready, and make sure you have all the tools set up, right? And that can be a little daunting for somebody to begin with. But I think apart from that, once you have that set up, I think I did spend a day or a little more just to get everything right, and once that was done, I think it was pretty much a breeze.
All right, excellent. So we've got a couple more minutes, and yeah, anybody, Dave, Kanika, any other questions, any comments?
No, I'm just happy hearing so much good feedback.
Yeah, delightful, and especially the team that's in Europe, that they're asleep right now. And yeah, we've got a day off tomorrow in celebration of Juneteenth. So that's coming up on Saturday. So we've got the day off tomorrow. But yeah, I'm sure that on Monday, when everyone gets back and they watch this, they'll be very happy.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
I have a weird question for you. So, did you come to work for the group that you do based on your love of shoes, or do you like footwear of any sort? Are you a collector? Just wondering.
No. Well, two reasons. Well, I was in Sydney and I wanted to move to Melbourne, but I think the bigger reason was retail. And all my life I've been in finance, and I loved working for the banks. But I think retail, which I can now vouch is an amazing place to be. So
it's intriguing.
Yes,
it's quite yeah.
So,
yes.
So that's a great question, or a great question kind of pops into my head. It might not be great, but so between finance and retail, which moves faster, or which has more? I mean, like, what do you like about retail that you didn't have, I guess, in finance? And not to start any wars or anything between the two groups.
Oh no. That's absolutely fine. And that was the first question to my project manager when I came in. I said, they said, "Oh, we need to get this done." I'm like, and I was really excited. I'm like, "Yes, I mean, I can do this. When do you need this?" She said, "Today." Right. That was the biggest difference, right? And or she said it would have been better if you had delivered yesterday. But obviously she was joking. But
yeah,
that's how it is, right? It's that good chaos, I would say, where whereas in finance, big banks, all of them have very structured approach. Like, all right, 2 months down the line, 3 months down the line.
Yeah.
But here it's really fast, and you get exposed to a lot of things in a faster rate than other industry. But yes, but the good part about that is you really learn fast, and you need to adapt. And I think last 2 years has been that journey for me, where I've really learned. My learning curve is just shot up, and the time to value for that with that it's helped obviously the business, and helped me as well to explore all of these new technologies. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So we'll have for anybody that watches this, it's currently a finance analytics person. They'll be jumping into retail, which is all good. The retail teams, I'm sure, need you.
Yeah. Publish a blog often, but I end up not maintaining it. But hopefully, I'll have some use cases and some example projects on my blog as well.
That's fantastic. Anil,
That's
it
great.
has been an absolute pleasure for you to join this live stream. Super fantastic. So
Thank you. It is. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. It was great being here, and thank you for all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
See you guys.